Chakra is the Sanskrit word which literally means wheels. And if we were to think of our body as the vehicle of consciousness, then our chakras, however you want to pronounce it, are the wheels that take this vehicle of consciousness through all its trials, its tribulations, and its experiences. Now in this video, I'm going to share with you the big picture on the 7 chakras. I'm going to explain to you what they are. I'm going to explain to you the energy associated with each chakra, the element, the main challenge with each chakra, so that you can ultimately balance it. And towards the end, an action step that you can take for each and every single chakra so that you can unblock it. And eventually the goal, the aim is really to have our chakras, right? These energy centers which are responsible for the reception, right? The receiving of life force energy, the assimilation of life force energy, and ultimately the transmission of that life force energy towards creating a life that we love. Okay, and when our chakras are balanced, it's really about bringing into alignment the 3 aspects of who we are on the level of mind, on the level of body, and on the level of transcendent consciousness, right? On the level of spirituality, however you want to see it. Now, if you are a beginner, you will understand the big picture overview of what they are, how to actually unblock them, how they impact your life. And if you are someone who is already familiar with these chakras, you're going to understand whether you have a deficiency of energy in each of these chakras, whether there's an excess, and ultimately how to bring it into balance through the action steps. Okay, the problem that I see so many of us go through is that we consume information without actually changing our behavior, and information without implementation is nothing more than mental masturbation. And this is why it is so critical that you stick to the end of this video so that you can actually implement the action steps that will allow you to experience the heightened states of emotion that really come when your chakras are in harmony. Okay, now whether the chakras actually exist scientifically, well, on a scientific level, they actually correspond. Each of the 7 energy centers correspond to the nerve ganglia that are that are placed along the base of our spine. Okay, but ultimately it's like, okay, yeah, I can understand this scientifically, it exists, whether it does or not, it really comes down to your own personal experience with them in your life. And that is the challenge over here, right? So not what I say, not what anyone else says, not what you consume, but what you experience is ultimately what makes the difference in your life on whether you are using this very powerful system, right? It's a chakra system. It applies on so many different dimensions, not just in your body, but on the state of human evolution and consciousness as well. It applies to the 7 hermetic laws of alchemy as well. So there's very different aspects that we can apply the system to. But like I said, not only is this a beginner's guide, but this is also an implementation guide that will help you not only get the information, but get the implementation steps to allow you to actually unblock them and allow you to experience the change in your emotional default setting as well. Okay, so like I said, there are 7 different chakras, energy centers. Now, depending on who you ask, there's like other schools of thought about how there's 20 or there's hundreds, right? We're going to focus on the 7 primary energy centers within your body. Okay, and the first one is our root chakra, and that is located at the base of the spine. And the energy associated with the root chakra is that of survival. Okay, and the element is really the earth. It is about our grounding. It is about our connection with this physical world right here, right now. Okay, and it's important to understand that our chakras must be balanced, because they can be imbalance in the sense that we have too much energy flowing in the lower 3 centers, right? In the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root, whereby we are too attached to this material world. Or they could go on the other end of the spectrum where they're too much inside the upper realm, right? The throat, the third eye, the crown, whereby we are too attached to the spiritual and forgot about this, right? It's about balancing them. And if you were to imagine a tree, right? A tree, Carl Jung, I think, said that no tree can rise to heaven until its roots reach down to hell. In the same way, like, you can think of the chakras within your body as the bridge that connect matter with spirit, right? Your body is the sacred ground on which these energy centers exist for you to actually experience that state of transcendence. while being grounded in the here and the now. And that is why it is so important to have your root chakra balanced. And like I said, the element of this is the earth. It's about you having a strong foundation right here, right now, in this physical dimension, right? What does that come down to? That comes down to your health, right? Is your health on point? What does that come down to? Is your finances on point, right? Is your environment safe enough for you to feel secure, right? Because the main challenge over here is that of fear, okay? Fear is what keeps this chakra imbalanced. And like I said, the imbalance can come from deficiency or it can come from excess. Now, Aristotle said that, a virtue in excess becomes a vice, a virtue in deficiency becomes a vice, and it is the same exact situation with our chakras. And this is why it is important to find that golden mean, that center, so that we have that grounding, so that we have that stability, so that we have that solid foundation, but we don't get too attached to it, okay? Because the root chakra in excess, when there's too much energy flowing in on it, then we actually get attached to the material things in our life. We get attached. We think that money is the thing that's going to keep us secure, realizing that really nothing is really secure, right? And on the grand scale of things, like you could be crossing the street, you could die. So there's nothing to actually keep you too much secure, right? So what the excess energy flowing into the root chakra actually leads to materialism, getting attached to the things in this physical world, thinking that they will keep you safe, right? But that is definitely something that becomes a negative ending spiral, because how much money is too much money, right? And you just keep chasing that security, and then you just end up keep living in fear because you think that you're never really going to be secure. That is when this chakra is in excess. Now, if that chakra is in deficiency, then there is no grounding. There is instability. You have no foundation. You are weak. You are just easily pulled this, that, and the other way because you are not in your solid foundation right here, right now. And that is why once we actually bring this chakra into balance, into harmony, is when we are grounded, is when we are strong, is when we are stable, is when we have a foundation in place that allows us to build on top of, right? Every chakra below actually creates a foundation for the next. So the next chakra is actually transcending and including the lower chakra that perceived it, okay? So the action step over here in order to balance your root chakra really comes down to your grounding. So what can that look like? That can look like you going out in nature, you scheduling time to actually go out into the forest, for you actually taking off your shoes, walking on the ground and actually grounding yourself on the earth's surface so that you can actually build that foundation. And on a scientific lens, right, if you are inclined towards that perspective, it's like the earth's surface actually emits electromagnetic frequencies that our body can't pick up, and actually reduce the negative frequencies that we pick up through the Wi-Fi, through the cellular networks, all these negative ions. And in that sense, we actually become more grounded as well, okay? Because the main challenge is that of fear, is that of feeling like you're not secure. And it really comes down to your environment, right? If you're living in a dangerous environment, then you're constantly going to be on the lookout. You're constantly going to be on the preservation mode, trying to see the threats in the environment, right? Second thing is your health. If your health is constantly under attack, right? If you feel like you're not healthy, if you feel like you don't have the energy, then you're always going to be trying to, your body's going to be stuck in that survival mode. You're constantly going to be releasing stress hormones like cortisol, like adrenaline, and you won't be able to have that foundation, right? Or it comes down to the finances, right? If you cannot currently come up with the money to put food on the table, then you will also be stuck in survival, right? The majority of people are actually stuck in survival. They're trying to survive, right? But what does that do? When we're trying to survive, then we forget to live, right? And when we forget to live, we can't thrive. And this is why it is important to have that foundation in place, on top of which we can actually get to the sacral chakra, okay? So the sacral chakra is located around the navel, right? So it is related to the energy of pleasure, okay? And more specifically, the pleasure that comes through relationships, forming a deep, passionate relationship with someone, the emotions that come through sexuality as well, which are stuff that takes place in the sacral chakra. And the element associated with the sacral chakra is that of water, okay? Water. And the main challenge over here is that of shame, okay? This is something that, looking back at my own experience, is like sometimes we experience emotions when we are a kid that we think we're not supposed to experience. For example, your perception of what a man is supposed to be like. A man is not supposed to be vulnerable. A man is not supposed to be sad. A man is not supposed to cry. So then when we experience those emotions, we shame ourselves for those emotions, then we suppress them, and then those suppressed emotions actually come back in distorted figures later on, and that trauma that we hold on to keeps on manifesting again and again, and it's something that does not serve us, right? Because when we carry on that shame is when we are actually blocking the energy from flowing through this chakra, which can hold us back from actually forming a deep relationship with someone, that can actually hold us back from actually being vulnerable with someone, right? How do you develop a deep relationship with someone? You are vulnerable, right? And something I think about a lot is courage and vulnerability. Like, is it possible to be courageous without being vulnerable? My answer to that question is no, right? Because the very act of courage, right? Like in my vocabulary, courage is the willingness to act in the face of discomfort, to act in the face of fear, right? And if we are too caught up in that shame, we're trying to preserve it, we're trying to maintain an image without actually expressing our true emotions, then it gets blocked, and that holds us back from creating that deep relationship with someone that can actually allow us to experience that pleasure, okay? Now, the challenge over here, like I said, it comes down to shame, and sometimes that shame can manifest in the deficiency, where there's just complete emotional flatness. It's just, you're just a wall, you're speaking in monotone, you can't express yourself, you're just held back. Or it can be in excess, whereby there's too much energy going over there, and that can manifest as addiction to busting nuts, to pixels on a screen. That can manifest as any addiction where you're too attached to the pleasure, whereby you're just living for the pleasure without an association with the bigger picture about the purpose, okay? Because the reality is that if you are someone on this personal development path, on this spiritual growth path of becoming all that you can be, the number one thing that we must sacrifice on this journey is our own comfort, right? We must sacrifice our own comfort. And if we get too attached to the pleasure, and that is the only thing that we live for, then we get caught up in the cycle of hedonism, right? Of just thinking that pleasure is the only thing that matters, where the reality is that it's actually a bigger picture. Sometimes we must sacrifice the pleasure in the moment to experience the fulfillment in the long term. So very important to have an awareness of whether this is an excess, whether this is a deficiency, because a lot of the addictions that so many of us go through, like personally, you know, like alcohol, like weed, like pornography, right? Going down that path is like too much energy flowing down there, and usually it is a cover-up, it's a coping mechanism for shame, for trauma that is unaddressed. And then we actually use these behaviors that are actually destructive to us over the long term because they feel good in the moment, okay? So having an awareness of that. And then in balance, the sacral chakra is really about fluidity, right? Going back to the element is water, like Bruce Lee said, be like water. Put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a pot, it becomes the pot. Adjusting your emotional situation, and emotional intelligence is really about having an awareness of the emotions that you're experiencing without judging yourself, right? Having an awareness of what emotions I do want to experience, and then creating the situations for yourself that allow you to experience them, right? So the balanced chakra is really manifested as fluidity, right? So the action step that you can take in order to balance your sacral chakra is really about you expressing something to someone that you haven't before, right? It's about you being more vulnerable. It's about you expressing your true emotions, right? And this could come through in the lens of journaling, right? It's like journaling, asking yourself the question, like, what emotions am I afraid of expressing, right? Asking yourself that question and then writing down whatever comes up. Asking yourself, why am I afraid of expressing these emotions, right? What would happen if I did? And then really sharing something with someone that you haven't before, right? How you really feel about something. And that can be an exercise into actually opening up your sacral chakra as well. And on top of that, right, it's about, like I said, every chakra that comes after transcends and includes the one that came before. So this is why, like, you can know, it's like, you know, if you want to see how tall they're going to build a building, see how deep they dig the foundation. Because if we build a really tall building without a deep foundation, right, if we don't have these lower chakras balanced, then it's very easy to just be toppled this way and the other way, because we're not grounded in that foundation. This is why no chakra is more important than the other. It's important to have them in harmony. It's important to have them in balance, okay? So the solar plexus chakra, which is really at the pit of our stomach, the energy associated with this is that of our personal power, right? AKA our willpower. And the element associated with this is fire, right? The fire of our metabolism. And the main challenge over here, right, is that of guilt, right? Because if we experience guilt about not living up to, again, a certain expectation of what we have about ourselves, right, that can hold us back from actually improving, right? If we guilt ourselves from not doing something, then we're actually less likely to do it again in the future, because a fundamental aspect of human behavior is that what gets rewarded gets repeated. And if you're like guilting yourself for not achieving a certain result, then you are very unlikely to follow through with that again in the future. Okay, so the main challenge over here is guilt. And again, if the solar plexus chakra is in excess, that is when you become manipulative. That is when you become controlling. That is when you become so concerned with your own personal needs that you're willing to go and hurt someone else's needs as a result of that, right? And it's important to draw the distinction between influence and manipulation. Because if you're manipulative, then you are in the process of getting someone else to do something for your best benefit, right? On the other hand, if you are influential, right, it's about you getting someone to do something for their own self-interest, right? It's about understanding that it's win-win. It's not a zero-sum game. It's like you can help someone get even better results, and as a result they can help you as well. It's a win-win situation over there. That is when it's in balance, when you have personal power, when you have the willpower to do what needs to be done. But in deficiency is when you become passive, right? You are passive. You are just at the result of other people's expectations. You are at the result of other people's agenda, right? And when the solar plexus chakra, for example, is not in balance, then you can also see that in the manifestation of food, right? Consuming too much food, whereby the protruding belly is coming out, right? And that is an example of a lack of self-control. It's a lack of willpower. It's a lack of actually serving your body with the food that it needs to function optimally, because chances are that you are hijacked by the drive towards pleasure, right? Because you can taste all these amazing foods, the ice cream, the chocolate, the desserts, and it tastes good in the moment, but it actually destroys your well-being in the long term, right? So that is something that we can get an awareness on the lower chakra as well. But bringing it into balance is about you being proactive. It's about you acting in alignment with who you know you are capable of being. It's with you exerting the willpower to do what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. Okay, so the action step over here to unblock your solar plexus chakra is really about you getting clear on your values, right? So get clear on what are the top 3 values that are most important to you right now in your life. Is it discipline? Is it self-mastery? Is it compassion? Is it service? Is it gratitude? Is it spirituality? Is it like getting clear on what your own values are is the starting point. And once you're clear on what those values are, then it's about you exhibiting the behaviors that align with those values in the long term. Okay, so those are the lower 3 chakras. Those are our foundation. Those are our grounding in this physical world. And if you are getting value from this video right now, I encourage you to click the like button, encourage you to subscribe if you have not already. It really helps the channel grow. And I release new content just like this every single week, and I do not want you to miss out if you are getting value from it. And if you're watching to this point, I suppose that you are, okay? And leave a comment below. What are your top 3 values, right? Writing it down is very different energy than thinking about it. Yeah, I know what my values are, but write them down so that you have objective awareness on it. Perhaps I can offer you some insight over there. Just leave a comment below so you're taking action in this. This is not just mental stimulation. This is not just entertainment. This is something that is actually changing your awareness. It's actually changing your behavior. Okay, so leave that comment right now. And that brings us to the 4th chakra, which is the heart chakra. Okay, so this is, we have the physical organ, which is the heart, but this is really the area which is our sternum, right? Which is our entire chest. Is this area right here across our body. And the energy associated with the heart chakra is that of love. Now, love can mean something different to very different people, right? Because in the Greek tradition, they had actually like 3 different types of love, right? There was erotic love, there was love for a friend, and there was love for fate, you know? So this is an element associated with air, right? The heart chakra is associated with air. And a great analogy over there is like, you know, where does the air begin and where does it end, right? Because air, like you put it into an environment and it just becomes part of the environment. It just becomes everything, right? The air that I'm breathing right now, like where does that end and where does the air that you're breathing right now begin? So it's really about inclusivity, and the type of love that the heart chakra is associated with is that of unconditional love, is that of all encompassing love, right? And it's really about, you know, different types of love. Like, of course, there is love starting for yourself, right? Do you actually love yourself? Do you actually make the choices and exhibit the behaviors and engage with the activities that serve your own best interests? Or is your mind hijacked by exterior agenda to eat food that isn't really food, to engage in behaviors that don't serve you, that destroy your well-being, right? It's about starting with your self-love, and then it's about, okay, love for my family, then it's about love for my friends, then it's about love for the strangers, right? Then it's about love for your work, it's about love for your fate, right? Ultimately, it's like, is your life happening to you or is your life happening for you, right? Tony Robbins is someone who brought that question to my awareness. It's like, because if you believe that life is happening for you, then you realize that my fate is something that I love, right? All the challenges, all the problems, all the issues that I have in my life are actually there for me to grow from, right? To grow through, right? You grow through what you go through, someone once said, right? And once you actually develop that awareness of love for everything, everyone, every situation in your life, is when you're activating the heart chakra. And the heart chakra is like the bridge, right, between the lower 3 chakras, between the physical and the metaphysical, the spiritual over there. That's why it's so important to actually open this up. And there is an agenda, in my opinion, that is manufactured to actually close up the heart chakra, right? We sit all day. We see people that have compressed chest. That is an example of deficient heart chakra, right? Because the main challenge over here is that of grief, right? When we hold on to grief is when we close off our hearts, is when we close off our own opportunities to express love to all the lives that we touch, right? Now, the heart chakra in excess can again create codependent relationships, right? This is when you are needy. This is when you need the other person to actually feel like you're enough. And you can also just be getting into other people's business all the time, right? It's like you're just too involved in other people. Now in deficiency, it's again, you're just closed off, you're antisocial, you do not actually connect with other people as well. And that's why having this heart chakra in balance is about you being in your pure loving awareness and presence. Is about you being willing to express kindness and compassion for the people in your life, right? The word compassion is very interesting. So it's calm and passion. So calm means with, and passion in Latin literally means suffering. So to be compassionate is to be with the suffering of someone else, to understand that everyone is going through something, to understand that everyone is just doing the best with what they have, with what they know, with what they think is best for them. And nothing is personal at the end of the day, right? Like, you know, someone might not have reached the expectations that you had, but they're just doing the best that they can, right? Everyone's just doing the best that they can. So you can actually be with someone suffering and understanding that, okay, you know, they're going through their own stuff, I'm going through my own stuff, nothing's personal over here. And, you know, at the end of the day, let's just see how we can harmonize and create a better world together, right? And that's what the balance is. And then the action step, again, you know, like how can you open your heart more? And I have another video on this, actually. I'll link out to it up above. It's about how to open your heart chakra. There's some physical exercises you can do, like the wheel, like the camel pose. There's some yoga poses over there. But ultimately, it's like, you know, what is something that you're holding on to? What are you grieving that is causing you to actually close off your heart? And this is why journaling is such a powerful tool to actually get awareness on what programs are not serving you in these different areas of your life, so that once you have that awareness, you can go and change your choices in your life. And then once you change your choices in your life is when you change your results in your life, right? So ask yourself, like, what grief am I holding on to right now that is causing my heart chakra to close off? And again, another action item, like I said, I will link out with the video on the exercises that you can do to actually physically open up your body as well, okay? Now, that brings us to the fifth chakra, which is the throat chakra. Okay, and this is actually the entirety of the neck. And the energy that is associated with the throat chakra is that of communication, of creativity, of expression. Okay, and the element associated with the throat chakra is that of sound. The element of the throat chakra is sound, like I said, is communication. And the challenge with the throat chakra is that of lies, right? Lies are actually what block off the throat chakra. So the question is, how can we bring that into balance? Because if we are having the throat chakra in excess, right, that is when we become overbearing. It's like the word used over here is boisterous, right? Like you're just expressing yourself too much. You're not knowing where that boundary is. You're expressing unwanted opinions, which is a vice, right? You are expressing yourself in ways that are not accepted. You're expressing yourself in ways that are not necessarily beneficial, right? You're expressing yourself beyond the way on which it is optimal. Now in deficiency, you're not expressing yourself enough. And like I said, the challenge is really about that blocked by lies, right? So how can we bring it into balance? When it's into balance, it's about you creatively expressing yourself. It's about you living in alignment with your truth. It's about you sharing your truth. It's about you not holding yourself back when you find yourself in an opportunity to express what you truly believe about a situation, right? So the action item over here is really ask yourself, where in your life are you not living in alignment with your truth, right? Again, you can journal on this, you can reflect on this, you can question this, but I think it's so important now more than ever before, at least like when I reflect on my own personal experience, like, where in my life am I lying, right? Am I lying to myself? Where am I lying to other people? Even if it's like a quote unquote white lie, right? Sometimes, it's a white lie, it's not doing anyone any harm, but really it's like, I didn't want to tell this person a lie because I told them a white lie so that they didn't feel bad about it, right? Like, I wanted to, like this person said something. It's like, is there ever a situation in which saying the truth is not optimal? That's what I've been reflecting on, like if I tell someone a white lie, am I telling that for their benefit or am I telling it for my benefit and avoiding the confrontation, right? It's like the only thing that would cause that other person to be disappointed is when they find out that it's a lie, even a white lie. So something that I am working and practicing on, right? The action step over here is, how can I express myself truthfully? How can I express myself honestly? How can I express myself sincerely all the time, right? Not some of the time, because there are these conditioned patterns, like, like even just talking about the time, I'm in my car right now, I'll be at your house in 5 minutes. But if that is not the reality, even though it makes the other person feel better, that's something that can end up blocking the throat chakra, right? So it applies on so many different dimensions, but the action item for you is to ask yourself the question, where in my life am I not living in alignment with my truth, right? Now, that brings us to the sixth chakra, which is the third eye chakra, also known as the brow chakra, right over here. And that is having to do with the energy of intuition, the energy of insight, the energy of creative visualization, right? And the element associated with the third eye is that of light, right? So notice how each element gets higher and higher frequency, meaning it gets less and less dense, meaning that it becomes more and more immaterial, right? So light is the element associated with the third eye, and the challenge over here is that of illusion, right? Illusion. So, to echo the wisdom of Morpheus from the Matrix is the world of illusion that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth, right? And an illusion is something that we think is true, even though it is not true. So opening up the third eye is really about you sharpening your view of reality, right? Like actually questioning your beliefs. Like, how do I know what I believe to be true is actually true, right? Testing your beliefs, opening up your ability to change your beliefs, understanding that they are based on some experiences that you had in the past that might not have been something that reflect your future. Right, really asking yourself the question, and the challenge is really gets blocked when you believe in illusions, when you believe that something is true even though it is not, right? And in balance, it's about you being in touch with your intuition. It's about you sharpening your view of reality. But in excess, right? In excess is when you become delusional, right? Some people are schizophrenic, where they can't tell the difference between their ideas in their head and the ideas in reality. They just don't know what the difference is, right? And that is when the third eye can be excessively open, and that really comes through when there is not that foundation in place, right? Like I mentioned at the start of this video, sometimes a lot of us have our top chakras opened to excess, and what that does is hinder us because our lower chakras are not in balance, right? So in excess, it can actually lead to delusional qualities, right? Where you can't tell fact from fiction. And then in deficiency, it's just you believing in falsehood. It's just you not questioning your beliefs. It's just you staying stuck in the cycle of what you believe to be true and being caught up in the cognitive bias of just finding evidence and confirming the beliefs that you already know to be true, without actually having that curiosity to explore more than what you know right now. Okay, so the action item over here to open up your third eye, to practice driving more energy over here, is to creatively visualize your future, right? Creatively visualize the future that is ideal for you. Close your eyes and imagine a future beyond the one that you're experiencing right here, right now. A future in which you are healthy, wealthy, wise, and strong, in which you have the relationships, in which you have the financial situation, right? That vision will be unique to you, but the more that you can actually tap into that, and the more that you can actually emotionally embrace that vision, the more you're actually practicing and exercising the opening of your third eye over there, right? So creative visualization is a major key over there. And the final chakra over here is that of the crown chakra, right? Which is actually at the top of the head. When we see enlightened people, you know, whether we see the Buddha, whether we see Jesus Christ, whether we see any other sage who is quote unquote enlightened, they have this crown, right? They have this sun-like crown behind their heads. And this is really the energy of transcendent consciousness, right? This is about you connecting with something beyond yourself. And the element associated with the crown chakra is that of thought, right? The only thing faster than light at this point is the speed of thought. We don't even, like, it happens instantaneously as far as we know right now, right? And the challenge with the crown chakra is, again, delusion, right? It's like not having that connection with the higher source. It's about you, again, being connected, attached to the physical world too much for you to actually let go and connect to the higher world, right? So the primary challenge, I would say, is that of attachment to the physical reality. Now, in balance, it's about you having wisdom, right? Wisdom in terms of intuition, in terms of knowledge, right? Connecting to the third chakra as well. But it's about you gathering that wisdom and having that wisdom and being an expression of that wisdom in your life as well. Now, in excess, it's like, again, you're just not in touch with the physical world. You're just too much connected to the spiritual, metaphysical, without having that foundation, which causes you to be lost in touch, right? You're just kind of out there. You're not having that foundation. You're not having that clarity. You're not having that connection with what is, and you're too lost in what can be, right? You're too lost in the metaphysical, and understand that there's different dimensions to who we are, right? It's not only metaphysical, it's physical as well. And in deficiency, it's just closed-mindedness, right? Again, you're just attached to this physical world. You don't even think that there is a metaphysical world, and that just holds you back from actually experiencing that transcendent consciousness, right? So bringing it into balance is about you experiencing that wisdom that really comes with the experience of transcendence, of understanding that you are not your body, you are not your mind, you're something aware of these things that allows you to have that experience as well, okay? So the action item over here for activating the crown chakra is really the practice of stillness, right? Stillness, of observing the space between your thoughts, of listening to silence, of creating that space of solitude so that you can get an awareness of the patterns that are taking place, and then you can go and change your choices as a result of that, right? Rumi said, silence is the language of God, everything else is poor translation, right? So really having that practice of stillness in your life is an opportunity for you to expand your crown chakra, right? So ultimately, it is not about everything that I said. It's about you having experience through what I said, right? That's why I gave you a bunch of action items in this video as well. Gave you a bunch of steps that you can take in order to implement and have that experience for yourself. And that is my sincere hope that you actually implement, so that you can have an experience with these chakras and then go and dive deeper into it as well. Okay, so leave a comment below letting me know your number one takeaway. Let me know if you have any questions about this, because the chakras are such a diverse system and such a expansive system that explains so many different dimensions of our experience, not only on this planet but on metaphysical realms as well. So there's so much that can be spoken about it, but I just wanted to make this beginner's guide, explain to you how to go about this, right? The wheels of life that take you through your trials and tribulations, and as the rainbow bridge that connects matter in this foundation with the spirit and our body as that holy vehicle that allows us to have that experience in our lives. Okay, so like this video if you like it. It really helps the channel grow. Subscribe if you have not already. I will leave out another video on chakras as well. You can check that out for even more expansion on it. You know, it's on the third eye, on the heart chakra and stuff like that. I will leave out a bunch of related videos in the description as well. But subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps the channel grow if you are digging this type of content, and I love connecting with you. So leave a comment with your number one takeaway or the one action item that you are going to implement after watching this video. Okay, so with all that being said, I'm going to leave you in the peace and power of the one infinite creator, and I will catch you in the next one. Much love to you. Take care.